Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be reacting to a video called Illegal in the US, Legal in the World. So this makes me a little scared because I think, at least maybe that's my perception, but I think the US is known for being really very litigious. I think they're very into just suing everyone because a lot of things are not legal. So I am wondering what kind of things fly all over the world, but they do not fly in the US because I think the bar, I think it's quite high. I don't know. This makes me very intrigued. So let's check it out and comment, like, and subscribe.
Welcome to America, the freest country in the entire
Supposedly.
world, which we know is true because it's a thing that people say. And you might
Sure.
actually believe that until you try to build housing somewhere or drink alcohol in public. But
Yeah.
unfortunately, America is not the freest country in the world. In fact, according
How do you measure freedom?
to some, it's barely in the top 20 freest countries.
Okay.
But the world is a diverse place, and one country's freedom
Correct.
is another country's criminal violation. And
Sure.
there are wide swaths of activities that are perfectly normal in other countries, but also very, very illegal in America. So today, let's look at some international liberties that could get you fined or locked up if you tried them stateside. And some of these foreign freedoms may surprise you. But let's start with a
Okay.
truly evil and dastardly product, one that actually specifically targets children.
What?
I'm of course talking about Kinder Eggs.
The
Now,
chocolate?
we like to say that children are the future, and here in America, the moment we find out that something puts children in danger, legislators pull out all the stops to ensure that we try to keep our kids safe. And that's why America
Yeah, and they usually do constantly use kids as an excuse for this.
has stood firm to cracking down on a grave and terrible threat to children's health and safety posed by toy-filled chocolate eggs. Kinder Surprise eggs, which famously contain a yellow capsule,
Oh, it's because the toy.
which contains a small toy, have been a beloved staple for children around the world ever since the product's introduction in 1974 by Ferrero, an Italian company. But in the United
Didn't know Ferrero owned them, and B, I didn't know they were that old.
States, these toy-filled treats have been classified as dangerous illegal contraband.
Oh my god,
And some background.
contraband.
In 1938, the U.S. passed the Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act, which empowered government agencies to regulate food safety. And under consumer safety regulations issued by the FDA and the Consumer Product Safety Commission, the sale and distribution of any food with a, quote, non-nutritive object embedded is prohibited. And that includes toys found inside confectionery
Okay, but you know the toys that is there. It's not, oh, I didn't know there was a toy in my cake.
items. Now, although you can find Kinder Surprise eggs in Canada and Mexico, don't try to bring them into this country or you risk serious fines. In 2011, the U.S. Customs and Border Protection, the CBP, seized more than 60,000 Kinder eggs from travelers' baggage and international mail shipments, more than twice that number from 2010. This caused
It's funny that you're illegally contrabanding Kinder Eggs. That's crazy.
the CBP to issue a press release in 2012 warning people to try to stop sneaking chocolate eggs into the country. Quote,
Yeah, I get it. It's token hazard, but come on.
also known as Kinder Eggs, these chocolate treats may be cute and seasonal, but they are too dangerous to children to be imported legally into the US. The problem is the small
don't agree
plastic
with
toy
this.
inside the Kinder Egg. While sold in many countries, this product is banned from the US because young children can choke on it. Now, some people have
Yeah, that's what you as a parent should probably take care of what your kid is eating.
argued
but-
that these Kinder Eggs are not a risk to European children and Canadian children
Yeah.
because European and Canadian children are smarter than US children.
I doubt it.
Now, a few months after the CBP released that statement, a married couple from Seattle was detained at the Canadian border when the pair was caught with 6 Kinder Eggs from Vancouver. The
6.
couple was unaware that they were in possession of illegal ovarian contraband and was even more shocked that each egg carried a penalty of $2,500 per egg. Now, luckily
That's such an expensive fine for such a small thing.
for that couple, they were let off with a warning. But not to worry, American Kinder fans, because in 2018, Ferrero introduced a modified Kinder Joy egg that complies with US regulations. Crucially, the Kinder Joy is not actually an egg-shaped chocolate. It's half a chocolate egg with wafer bits inside, while the toy is kept on the other side of the egg away from the edible bit, which I guess is suitable for hapless American children.
Yeah, come on.
And despite the fear surrounding Kinder Eggs, there's little evidence that these chocolate delights are as dangerous
Yes,
as claimed.
please.
Now, there have been 7 reported child deaths
Oh.
between 1989 and 2016,
Okay,
a
so that's
relatively
bad.
tiny number in the face of billions of eggs sold. And furthermore, the packaging warns parents that the eggs are not suitable for kids under the age of 3 and supervision is recommended. But
Exactly. All toys, I think, do this. They'll tell you, hey, not suitable for kids under this age. So that's what you as an adult should take care of it.
let's not leave food-based illegality, because while Americans remain deeply divided on a wide variety of issues, there's one thing that most of us can agree on, and that's that
What?
life begins at cheese. Now, over the last 40 years, our love of cheese, much like our waistbands, has grown. Between 1977 and 2020, we Americans have increased our annual cheese consumption from 16 pounds to 40
What?
pounds every
That's
year.
a lot of cheese.
And I'm probably responsible for about half of that. So
Sure.
needless to say, we Americans love our cheese, whether it's on pizza, burgers, or in the form of 64 Jesus-infused slices of American cheese.
Have you been up all
American cheese is plastic.
night eating cheese?
I think I'm blind.
But if you're
Yeah.
taking a cheese tour of the world, be careful what you bring back to the United States, because your love of cheese might just put you in legal jeopardy.
Guys
That's
enjoying
crazy.
That cheese? It's unpasteurized. It's illegal in this country.
In fact, many raw soft cheeses from France, like Bleu de Gex, Roquefort, or Reblochon, are illegal in the United States due to the FDA's strict cheese production regulations.
Oh.
Under these rules, cheeses made with raw, unpasteurized milk
Black
is illegal
market.
to import or sell in the United States unless it has been aged for at least 60 days. The reasoning is, of course, food safety, namely to minimize the
I have no idea what kind of cheeses are unpasteurized, raw, whatever. It just tastes good. I don't care. I don't care about the making cheese process.
risk of foodborne contagions like Listeria, Salmonella, and E. coli.
Is there any evidence that people are actually getting salmonella or other things because they're eating raw cheese?
And after 60 days, the acids and salts in raw milk cheese, coupled with the aging process, begin to naturally kill these types of harmful bacteria. But here's the thing. Anyone who has ever been to France knows that the cheese is so much better.
Yeah, they're fine.
And it's not just raw cheese. The FDA has also cracked down on certain cheeses just because they contain too many live insects. That's the case with
my
Casu
God.
Marzu, a traditional Sardinian sheep's milk cheese that's intentionally infested with live maggots.
Okay, that's
Casu
gross.
Marzu, which literally means rotten cheese,
Oh
gets a
my
special
God.
flavor from being left to rot out among swarms of fly larvae. And while I'm told
Cheese is great. I love cheese. I think this is a hard limit for me.
this hellish looking cheese is actually quite delicious, it turns out that eating maggots is actually a tremendous health risk, earning the cheese the nickname the world's most dangerous cheese. And as a result, Casu Marzu is
Grosses.
not only illegal in the US, but in the entire European Union. But here's the thing, anyone who has
General piece of advice: do not go around eating maggots. That's my take.
ever been to Sardinia knows the maggot-filled cheese is just so much better there. But the French have also been on the receiving end of big government's anti-bug eating crusade. In 2013, the FDA angered American cheesophiles by blocking the import of French mimolette cheese just because the cheese is naturally infested with cheese mites. And while
Oh.
most cheesemakers consider the mites a nuisance, mimolette producers actually encourage the microscopic
What?
critters to burrow into the rind in order to help the cheese ripen and produce its distinctively sweet, earthy flavor.
Okay, so you're not seeing them. I think as long as you're not seeing what's in there, it's fine. Eat it.
Mighty. But the FDA has determined that eating too many mites could cause an allergic reaction, resulting in the ban of the Gouda-like cheese. And though the FDA has no legal limit on cheese mites, the agency
It's allergies, but a lot of things give you allergies, so you're probably willing to risk it.
indicated a target of no more than 6 mites per square inch, which normally
Okay.
simply cannot meet. So what are the consequences of contraband cheese?
Can you
We
go
have
to
a tip
jail?
about some food entering the country illegally?
No.
Well, the failure to declare food products on your customs forms can result
Yeah,
in
sure.
fines of up to $10,000, and your unlawful cheese will be seized. But be forewarned, there is a thriving black market for cheese in the United States, and illegal cheese is very much on the government's radar. The Department of Homeland Security, you know, the post-9/11 agency responsible for protecting the country from terrorism and kinder eggs,
Yeah.
has helped bust cheese smuggling rings into Canada. But unless you're a large
I'd love to be a part of that ring, the homemade cheese ring. It sounds really interesting.
scale cheese smuggler, you're probably not looking at any jail time.
Good,
Wow,
okay.
You got me. Good one. Making me think I was gonna die in federal prison.
Yeah.
Ah, that's super fun.
You can't go to jail, they'll just give you a warning, and you probably have to pay, but maybe the cheese was worth it.
You scamps.
So worst case scenario, you're probably looking at a fine and suffering the ennui of eating your dry, cheeseless crackers alone. But let's leave the food world and get into something that probably makes a little bit more sense. Now, a source of pride for the baby boomer generation is that everything was
Manicured
dangerous
lawn.
and no one seemed to care. Yes, that golden era where we lined our walls with cancerous
Yeah.
asbestos, medical professionals
Paint.
smoked in hospitals, and people sold chemistry sets to children that contained real uranium. So of course, as a society,
Okay, that was news to me. I didn't know that they were selling uranium just normally for kids. That seems crazy even for that time.
we used to let kids hurl giant darts into the air with impunity and call it a national pastime. That's the story of lawn darts, which have been illegal in the United States since 1988 after being linked to thousands of injuries and the deaths of at least 3
I
children.
don't think I've ever seen
Lawn
this.
darts, known as javelin darts or jarts, was a popular lawn game in the mid-20th century. Gameplay was actually quite straightforward. Players would take turns tossing giant darts into a circle placed about 35 feet away, a la cornhole, but with giant razor-sharp darts raining down from the sky
I don't think I've
instead
ever seen
of
those.
soft beanbags. Now, unfortunately, throwing a giant metal dart is a tremendous safety hazard,
Well,
and
but-
government regulators eventually began to take note.
But it's a game, unless you're throwing at each other, and that's wrong. But the game doesn't seem that dangerous to me.
This
isn't child's play, according to the Food and Drug Administration.
The US's first attempt to outlaw the game was strenuously opposed by jart manufacturers who fought the proposed FDA ban in court. In 1970, manufacturers actually won a compromise that would allow the sale of lawn darts so long as it was 1, only marketed to adults, then 2, the product was no longer sold in toy stores, and 3, the product contained
It's dangerous for everyone, I would assume, not just for kids.
warning labels alerting consumers to keep it out of the reach of children.
Sure.
But unfortunately, these compromise measures were insufficient to prevent tragedy for aerospace engineer David Snow. In April 1987, Snow's 7-year-old daughter, Michelle, was killed by a lawn dart thrown by one of her 9-year-old brother's playmates
my
in
God.
the backyard of their home in Riverside, California. The dart hit her
This looks insane and a very insanely traumatic experience, but that's crazy.
head with approximately 23,000 pounds of pressure per square inch, and Snow's daughter died 3 days later.
Oh my God,
The grieving
they're
father then
dangerous.
made it his mission to lobby public officials to take lawn darts off the market for good. Snow brought his complaint to the Consumer Product Safety Commission, who were persuaded to investigate Snow's claims. The commission discovered that over a period of 8 years, lawn darts had sent 6,100 people to the emergency room.
How much is
81%
that?
of those cases involved kids aged 15 or younger, half were 10 or younger, and many had suffered permanent injury, disability, or even death. In
Again, crazy, but again, how much is that in the actual percentage of people playing this?
1988, Snow prevailed in his crusade. The commission voted 2-1 to prohibit the sale of all lawn darts and had them removed from stores in time for that year's Christmas.
Seems like a
and
crazy
Canada
game
also
overall.
outlawed lawn darts in July of 1989. Now, if you want to play traditional lawn darts, you'll have to hop on a plane and visit the European Union, where the game is still legal. But here in the US, you can find a legal version with a modified plastic blunt tip that replaces the sharp metal tip.
Oh, yeah, I've seen
'Cause
them.
that makes quite a lot more sense. But that takes us to something that's
But it's crazy that so the European Union no one's gotten killed. Then I don't know. I want to know.
arguably even more dangerous: smoking. Now, for most of the 20th century, cigarette smoking was glorified as the ultimate embodiment of the American West.
Yeah, everyone smoked.
Things like tough guys, rebels without a cause. In advertising, doctors endorsed their favorite
I'm pretty sure everyone smoked, not just rebels, doctors, not just rebels and stuff. Everyone smoked.
brands, while we were told that women found smoking men irresistible. But this image of
Women
health
smoked,
and sex
everyone.
appeal slowly began to change starting in 1964 after the U.S. Surgeon General stated definitively that yes, smoking tobacco can be fatal. And research shows that flavored cigarettes largely appeal to and are disproportionately used by those under 18 years of age.
That is not how to inhale, Bobby. You're hotboxing it.
So, to help combat
that okay?
smoking, in 2009, the FDA banned the sale of flavored cigarettes, including cloves, cinnamon, candy, and fruit flavors, pursuant to the Family Smoking Prevention and Control Act. Though
I know, but at the same time, vapes are incredibly legal and very commonplace these days, and that's kind of the same thing.
menthol cigarettes were exempted from the ban, as well as non-cigarette tobacco products like
Okay, why menthol? It's not that unsafe. What's up with that?
electronic cigarettes, cigars, smokeless tobacco, and hookah.
Yeah.
But the U.S. is not alone
Isn't
here.
it
As
the
countries
same?
with policies banning some or all types of
Maybe it's nicotine, and that's the key.
flavored cigarettes include Canada, Brazil, Ethiopia, Uganda, Senegal, Niger, Mauritania, and
Sounds
28
countries.
member states of the European Union, Moldova, Turkey, and Singapore. As for everyone else, Well, not only are flavored cigarettes completely legal in the vast majority of countries, but the US ban on cloves actually created an international incident. In April 2010, Indonesia, the world's top producer of clove cigarettes and the source of the vast majority of those smoked in the US, filed a trade dispute with the World Trade Organization.
Oh.
In its claim, Indonesia argued that the US ban illegally discriminated against foreign products of flavored tobacco and created an unlawful advantage for domestic tobacco manufacturers.
I get it, yes.
In
I get
September
why.
2011, the WTO agreed, finding that the ban was indeed discriminatory because it prohibited clove
Yeah.
cigarettes while allowing the sale of American menthol cigarettes.
Of course.
The opinion was affirmed on appeal in 2012. This ruling gave Indonesia the right to retaliate until either the US changed its law to comply or the two sides reached a settlement. And
They
in
settled.
2014, the two countries reached a final settlement on the
course.
issue, ending their dispute. Under the settlement, the US agreed it would not arbitrarily discriminate against certain Indonesian tobacco products and promised to work with Indonesia on other trade issues.
Yeah.
Now, a decade after the flavored tobacco ban, public health advocates seem to have been vindicated. A 2020 study published in the Journal of Adolescent Health found that the flavor ban was effective at reducing cigarette use among young people. In April of 2022, the FDA took
That surprises me because again, a lot of young people do the vaping. So isn't that kind of the same? Maybe it's under another. It's on another sort of section.
additional steps against flavored tobacco products by proposing a ban on the sales of menthol cigarettes and all flavored cigars.
Are young people doing menthol cigarettes? I entirely doubt it. I think that's an old people thing. I think.
In its proposal, the FDA argued that these actions had the potential to reduce disease and death by, quote, reducing youth experimentation and addiction and increasing the number of smokers that quit. Public comments will
Well, yeah, sure. If you never start, then you never have to quit.
continue through July of 2022, but Kinder Surprise eggs are already banned, so the hard work has already been accomplished. But that takes us to the next American illegality, something you potentially might do every
No, but
single
jaywalking
day.
is- yeah.
Now, if you were an American pedestrian
illegal.
in 1903, crossing the street was a very simple endeavor. If you wanted to cross the street, you would just walk across the street. Before the introduction of cars, roads were seen as a public space that all citizens had a right to occupy, even children
That universe, I think, seems another reality.
at play. But today, if you try and
It's a very foreign reality. The fact that you just the streets are public space and you don't have to take the cars. You don't have to look around. I think that's crazy.
cross the street without using a crosswalk or cross the street when the traffic light is flashing do not
Yeah, there's no need for a crosswalk if there's no cars.
walk, well, congratulations, you have committed the crime of jaywalking. Now, across the
Yeah.
pond, some of our European allies have taken a more laissez-faire attitude towards jaywalking by making it totally legal. They just call it walking. Now, for example, there are no
My thought process was, wow, that's not walking. I was, jaywalking is legal there?
laws against jaywalking in Norway. The same goes for the UK, meaning
Okay.
the Beatles didn't need to use the crosswalk for their famous Abbey Road cover.
Great
And the
point.
Netherlands used to have laws against jaywalking, but repealed these statutes in 1995 to simplify the traffic code and give pedestrians more freedom.
Okay.
In these countries, your right to cross the street freely
It's your
shall
right.
not be infringed. But here in the United States,
I find that very weird to me. I think that's illegal.
we've taken a more punitive approach to walking. Now, every year,
It's not just
cities like Los
walking.
Angeles issue tickets to tens of thousands of pedestrians
Yes.
for jaywalking, which includes fines worth up to $200. But this was not always the case. In fact, ticketing someone for jaywalking is a relatively young concept in the United States. According to University of Virginia historian Peter Norton, the notion of jaywalking, with Jay being an early 20th century slur for someone stupid or unsophisticated, was introduced by a group of auto industry aligned groups in the 1920s as part of a concerted pro-car, anti-pedestrian propaganda campaign.
Oh no, I fell into the anti-pedestrian propaganda because I'm very concerned about this.
But when cars were first introduced, there were a few crosswalks painted on the street. Pedestrians generally ignored the ones that existed because they didn't
Yeah.
need to. But as
Yeah.
cars became more widely available, pedestrian deaths skyrocketed with hundreds
Yeah, now you have to pay attention because there's literal cars. So yes, of course I have to I can't just walk around.
To thousands of Americans, many children, being killed in car crashes for the first few decades of the 20th
Yeah.
century. So to counter all this negative publicity, auto industries sought to enact traffic laws that would shift blame from drivers and their cars to the
I fell into the
pedestrians
propaganda.
themselves.
No.
And it worked. Not only
It
did
worked on
cities and
me.
states begin criminalizing jaywalking, but the US government supported the anti-pedestrian propaganda campaign by ridiculing jaywalkers and placing blame on them for automobile crashes. And today,
my.
some criminal justice advocates believe jaywalking should be decriminalized altogether. But as an aside, you should all go watch Not Just Bikes and get orange pilled, because it's kind of stupid that we've ceded all of this real estate to cars for both driving
Yeah.
and parking, when cities should be for the people
Yeah, but again, it's just the way the cities are built in the US are just different.
themselves. But I'll get down off of my soapbox.
Yeah.
And while it might sound counterintuitive, countries that allow jaywalking tend to have lower traffic deaths, as pedestrians tend to cross more safely and when they aren't worried about criminal penalties. And criminal justice advocates point out that jaywalking
I'm wondering why. It's because people maybe have to be more careful? I don't know.
laws have a very disparate impact, with tickets not evenly applied and enforcement disproportionately targeting people of color. So far
Oh,
in
that's
2021,
bad.
Virginia has heeded this call by becoming the first and so far only state to decriminalize jaywalking.
Oh,
and a similar
really?
bill to decriminalize jaywalking was vetoed by California's Governor Gavin Newsom in 2021. So
Okay.
for better or worse, if you want to stay on the straight and narrow in 49 of the US states, you'd better be sure to look both ways and
Yes.
stay in the crosswalk every time.
Correct.
For now. So click on this link or I'll see you in court.
Okay, this was very interesting. There's so many things I wasn't aware of. I think the most eye-opening thing about this, for me at least, was the jaywalking thing. I think because it's very ingrained, I believe the whole jaywalking is illegal and you shouldn't do it. You should always look both ways before you cross the street. You can't, there are traffic lights for a reason. And I'm talking about all of this as a pedestrian. And there's a lot of like police can get you, I don't think they'll find you, but I don't know. I've never been in that position, but I think again, there's been this concept and it's deeply ingrained of, if you see a police officer, well, you're not just, you have to look at the traffic light and you have to walk the straight and narrow. But I thought that was just normal, and I thought all countries did this because, again, it's the legal thing. Because, of course, cars are dangerous for pedestrians, and it's dangerous for you if you're walking. Someone can come and run you over. It had never occurred to me to think, oh, other countries do not do this. It's not jaywalking. Obviously, as a concept, of course, exists. But the whole concept of this being illegal and you are getting fined, or the police officer is gonna come and give you a warning or something, I didn't know that was not happening in other places, and they were decriminalizing this. It was very eye-opening to me because they explained how he explained actually how it started. And yes, it started as something, well, yeah, obviously before cars, we were just walking around freely. And again, I know that ideally that's how it should be, and that's how it should continue to be, because I think cities should obviously belong to the people and not the cars. The whole cars sort of have a dictatorship on cities. But sadly, that's really the case. And I'm talking, of course, in the US. In Europe, I think it's obviously a little bit easier to sort of deprogram you of this, or probably they just aren't programmed to begin with. It's just, no, it's normal. Why should you sort of take, the cars are there and they're untouchable and we should all sort of, I don't know, you're sort of subjugated to them and be sort of, cars and stuff. But I think in the US it's obviously very different, and that's how it should be, but I think it really isn't. And changing that, it's a whole thing. I don't think that's going to happen overnight, if it ever does, because you would need a lot of city planning. It's not just as easy as going, oh well, jaywalking is not illegal anymore, so do whatever. No, I don't think it's that easy. And of course you would have changed the whole cities and the whole city layout and stuff, and obviously this whole process. But what surprised me was, no, the jaywalking thing, as being the jaywalking illegality of it all, came from car manufacturers, which I never thought of this. I thought it was just, oh, well, something, obviously there were a lot of accidents and a lot of people probably died because they were getting run over. So they do this to make things safer, to make streets safer. for pedestrians and for people. And it never occurred to me, no, it was the car manufacturers, the evil car manufacturers that were trying to shift the blame on the pedestrians and not on the car drivers and the cars themselves. So I am being, wow, you know, this was revolutionary to me. Now because I sadly, yes, I definitely fell into that into that jaywalking propaganda. Of course I did, because I didn't know that there was something else. I didn't know there was a whole other world out there. So I now know, okay, I'm shifting my view, my perspective. I now know it doesn't have to be like that. And apparently it is kind of, again, I don't know. You mentioned, well, there's less accidents, but I don't know if it's just maybe because it's not illegal. Maybe, I don't know. I'm trying to think of the logic behind this. Maybe it's because if it's not illegal, maybe and the cars themselves, I think, you gotta get the sense, well, me as a pedestrian, I have the upper hand. So maybe I think cars, and because cars are, well, if I run over someone, then I'm responsible, and the blame is on me. So maybe I have to be more careful. I don't know, but that doesn't seem that logical to me, because obviously if you're a driver, getting into a car is a big responsibility. So of course you're thinking, well, it's gonna be, it's me to blame. I mean, well, it depends on the accident, but I think most of the times is if you ran over someone and they're illegally crossing the street, well, I don't know, you would put the blame on them, right? It's, well, no, because I was, you know, they were jaywalking, which is illegal. I don't know. I think I have to think about this a little bit harder, just because I'm really not understanding how that lowers the accidents. Maybe I think the only thing I can think of is maybe because people are just more careful about it. And maybe it's because if you take out the whole, oh, I can get fined, or this is illegal, maybe people just naturally are more careful about it. I don't know. Would love to know. The other things, I think the Kinder Eggs, I mean, yeah, it's sure, it's sad. You know, people use a choking hazard. I still think it's ridiculous. I'm sorry. It just is. Because if other people in other countries, it's normal and they can do this, how come American children are so, oh no, they're gonna get, you know, it's dangerous for kids. I don't know. I think there's gotta be something else behind this, and that's the story that's being fed to us. Oh no, because yes, the toys were very small, but I don't know, because again, other people in other countries, you know, throughout Europe, they have this. It's normal. You can have a Kinder Egg, and no one. Well, I don't know. Maybe I don't know what the statistics show. Maybe the numbers are no. There's choking hazard. It's a choking hazard both in Europe and in the U.S. And the U.S. just went beyond this and actually made it illegal. Or no, absolutely not. In Europe, there are no accidents about this. Kids are not choking in the Kinder Egg, in the Kinder Egg toys. Which again, it's crazy, because again, you wouldn't, and I think that just as a parent and as an adult in general, if you are in charge or you're responsible for a child, you wouldn't just give them a Kinder Egg. Well, it depends, obviously, if they're young kids, not 10 or 11-year-olds. I think maybe that age, I think you're just, you know, people know how to swallow and stuff. But for kids, I don't know how the Kinder Eggs are. I think it's just younger than 6. I have no idea. But whatever it is, you know, and you as a parent, and again as an adult, you would check, right? Oh, you know, you're a Kinder Egg. Oh, it has a toy. It's not suitable for kids under whatever age. So you would go, oh well, if I'm in charge of a small kid, no, I wouldn't give them a Kinder Egg. But even then, you know, because as an adult, again, your logic and your sound of mind, you would think, well, no, I can't. Little plastic toys are dangerous in general, both in Kinder Eggs and just in life. You have to be careful. But again, that's just about being an adult and being responsible for kids. Or again, you just have to be careful. So I think I'm struggling to know. I don't know. Obviously accidents happen. Maybe the kid just grabbed the Kinder Egg and you didn't realize. But maybe you should keep them in an upper cupboard. I don't know. Or just again, be careful. You're giving them the Kinder Egg and you're watching them opening and stuff. I don't know. I think this seems crazy, and if they're putting the toy in their mouths, well, of course you have to take them out. But I don't know. It seems like a way overcautious measure for something that again, apparently it is a big deal. But I'm wondering if it's because people were just even their kids running wild with their Kinder Eggs. I don't know. I just think it's weird that Europe it's perfectly. It's in Europe it's fine, and in the US it isn't. I don't know. It's the same. It's the same thing. It's both kids. I don't know. It's crazy. The cheese situation. Well, yeah. I know that certain types of cheeses were illegal, but I always because I heard people talk about this, but I didn't know it was actually no. You can get fined. I didn't know. I thought they were just joking because the cheese is smelly. No, I didn't know it was an actual thing. No, it is illegal to bring cheese that's raw cheese or whatever it is. I know that when you check out the customs form, yeah, if you're bringing something like this, you have to declare it. Of course, that would be illegal. Of course, if you just come, I'm bringing in some cheese and I'm not declaring this, of course, that's normal to me. But I didn't know, no, literally, and you can't. It just plain out, you can't. I know that technically there are some things that you can't enter the country with. I think some seeds, I know probably, again, cheese as well, but I thought it was more about seeds and other type of things just because of biology. I don't know, it's about fungus, right? Or bacteria. You can't, but in case those seeds or those plants are infected, then obviously you can't bring them into the country. I get it. But the cheese situation, again, I thought it was a joke and more about people being, European cheese is so smelly. It wasn't a thing. No, literally, you will get fined, and it's a whole thing, and there's a black market for cheese. I would love to know, but obviously I can't, probably because they're criminals. They're cheese criminals, so I can't talk to them or probably do my own research on this. But I would love to talk to someone that's involved in this cheese black market because it sounds very interesting, and especially how are they bringing it and all of that, and what the passion comes from. Well, because obviously you have to be very passionate about cheese to involve yourself in something like this. But also, I think it would be very funny to be, where can I get black market cheese? Obviously, you're not gonna. It's not publicized. You have to be part of the. I don't know. Is it on the dark web? Where would I go if I want some black market and counterfeit cheese? I would love to know. And as for the cigarettes, yes, as well. I think it's a little crazy. I get yes. Of course, you're gonna lower the rates of smoking, and it's good that people smoke. If you never get into smoking, you never have to quit later on. So yes, of course, and the campaign has definitely worked. I think few people. Well, of course there are a lot of smokers, but I think in the U.S. people just smoke. They smoke less than in Europe. I think in Europe it's probably more common. I think the campaign definitely worked in the U.S. But still, it's kind of, I don't know, it seems crazy to me that there's this ban against cigarettes and club cigarettes and all of those kind of cigarettes, but then you allow vapes and vapes are normal, which is, well, doesn't that defeat the whole process? Because I think most people, no, vaping, I think is done by all ages, but especially I think teens are super into vaping. So I think, I don't know, it's kind of weird that they're not trying to tackle that because if they're the war on cigarettes, wouldn't that include vapes as well? I don't know, but maybe it's about nicotine. I don't think vapes have nicotine. I'm not sure. And as for the club cigarettes, I have to admit, I've never had a club cigarette. I would love to know. I want to know how it tastes because clubs are very nice. So I don't know. I would like to know how it tastes. I don't know. I wouldn't want to get addicted. I'm not a smoker, but I would just want to try it because it makes me makes me curious. But that was it for today, and I'll see you next time. Bye.